Is it going?
This will be used against you.
So this is weird a little bit because usually when I have a show, I'm not technically supposed to be looking at that camera, right? Okay.
Stare directly into the camera and say something.
Welcome back to The Observation.
It's very intense.
Too much?
Even intense stare.
Welcome back to The Observation. We are back after a summer hiatus, coming to you from the top of pubkey. It is the best, and is it the only Bitcoin bar in the world? Jerk, can you fact check me on that? It's not. I don't think it is. But I'm just going to say that it is. So come check it out. It's in the West Village. So we are kicking things off. We are kicking things off with our first recurring guest, Nic Carter. Nic is a respected pundit. He is a citizen journalist, and he is the co-founder of Castle Island Ventures. And he is an amateur boxer, a celebrity boxer, influencer boxer. 1-0. Congrats. How does that feel?
Great.
Really?
No, I'd like to be more than 1-0. I was meant to fight again, But
it's something, what happened?
I have a herniated disc in my spine and a bulging disc.
So is that the end of your fighting career?
I hope not. I'd like to fight again. I got called out.
By who?
The guy was meant to fight in Singapore. He fought, he won, then he called me out.
Again, so you have to train up for that?
I think so.
Oh, damn.
So
is there a date? Is there,
ends.
the people want to know, is there like a new date?
It honestly depends if I can heal my spine. I don't know how to do that.
Did you not think about the health toll that it would take to become a boxer before you got involved in the sport?
I was aware that there was significant risks, and I had so many injuries, not just the herniated disc that I didn't talk about.
You were talking crap to Hoffman when he had his broken rib, though.
I know. I regret that.
Yeah.
That was a real injury.
Was that karma?
Probably. He's fighting.
He's fighting somebody.
Fighting
Kane.
Yeah, from Synthetics. October 11. I'm very excited for that fight. I actually think Hoffman's going to win.
Really?
Even though he's not the betting favorite.
Not financial advice on Polymarket?
Yeah, he's a huge underdog, but I think he has the cardio to win that fight. I think people don't realize how much cardio matters in the fight game.
Did you feel gassed at the end of your fight?
My fight lasted 80 seconds. 8-0. You were there, right? You were there?
I was there. It felt faster than that.
Everyone said that. After 80 seconds, I was feeling a little gassed, which was crazy. But it's just like the intensity is something else.
Yeah. Did you kind of black out? You know how you go into things and you sort of don't remember that you did it?
I didn't remember a single thing from the fight.
Really?
Yeah.
You just realized you won and you came back into it?
I didn't even know that I'd won. When the ref pulled me off, it took me 5 seconds to figure out that the fight was over.
Wow.
And then I went crazy and ran around the arena.
Yeah, I guess I remember that. Well, congrats, Nic, on the fighting career, and I hope it continues.
Thank you.
We're actually going to be talking about Chokepoint 2.0 today and a new report that Nic put out last week with some new details around Silvergate. So, Nic, what's different, this time around with this new report that went out in Pirate Wires, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's different in this new report?
Yeah, a lot of people kind of accuse me of rehashing history, but I think we need to do that because the banks are still cracking down on the crypto space. Well, the government is via the banks.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. There are no new crypto banks like Custodia is trying to get their charter. They're not getting it, the master account. Mm-hmm. So the market isn't clearing. The crackdown is still ongoing. And I believe that there's this great historical crime in the death of Silvergate and Signature banks. And I don't think that's been addressed. I don't think anyone has ever gotten justice for that.
So what compelled you to go further into this? Obviously, because it's still ongoing, but most people had sort of moved on.
Yeah, I don't want people to move on. I'm still mad.
We can tell.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I just have this, burning rage inside me that I can't quench.
It doesn't feel like you have burning rage energy.
I secretly do.
Okay.
I appear very neutral on the surface, but on the inside, it's like a
You're
storm.
screaming inside. So you were going through the bankruptcy filings and you were screaming. Is that correct?
I don't know if I screamed out loud. At one point, I was like, yes. Eureka.
God.
I probably did exclaim at one point. So what the immediate catalyst was Silvergate filed for bankruptcy. Initially, they announced their intent to liquidate in think March 9th, 2023.
Okay.
Some time has passed since then. A bank can't actually file for bankruptcy. That's an interesting thing I learned about banks. So they had to convert the bank, and there, like, a lot of administrative stuff had to happen. They also paid out settlements. They settled with the California Federal Reserve, the SEC, their class action lawsuits. All of that has kind of been resolved, most of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've filed officially for bankruptcy in their day one filing, which is a filing you establish to the judge the basic facts of the case, because they want to determine who's getting paid out based on the cash reserves that they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
The preferred shareholders, common won't get anything. In the day one filing, Elaine Hetrick, their chief accounting officer, laid out their version of the story for the very first time. No one at Silvergate had ever said anything on the record. I had reported about Silvergate in 2023 when I first wrote those 2 articles for Pirate Wires, but that's just my reporting. That's just a matter of trust me. A lot of people don't trust me. It's like, okay, what does he know?
Why not?
Well, for better or for worse, it's probably a little bit more credible coming directly from an executive at a bank.
Sure.
So Elaine...
But they're not allowed to talk.
They're not. And that's like the real tragedy or perverse thing here is the key revelation that I reported on in May 2023 was they faced the imposition of this deposit cap in terms of their crypto business. So there were various ways that it was described to me, but it basically appears that the San Francisco Fed went to Silvergate around the turn of the year, early 23, around the time they were dealing this bank run. And there were a lot of missives out from regulators to the bank saying, don't touch crypto. Crypto is dangerous. There was one on January 3rd, 23. There were a lot. And the SF Fed went to Silvergate and said, you have to reduce the crypto share of your business, as in the clients that you have that are crypto firms, down to about 15% of your depository base. At one point, it was over 90%.
Yeah.
In Q3 22, it was over 90%. So they were a crypto-focused bank. That was their whole business. It's kind of like going to Dunkin' Donuts and saying you can't sell coffee or donuts. It's like, what's left to do, right?
Yeah.
So Silvergate chose to voluntarily liquidate the bank. We never see that. That's a super rare thing.
Yeah.
I looked for other examples of voluntary liquidations. I could find like 2 minuscule ones from the 90s. That was the first bank to fail. And then all these other banks failed. Signature, SVB, First Republic. Did First Republic fail? I don't know. So the fact that they voluntarily liquidated was telling. It was a sign that something was amiss. What had happened was the regulators had gone to them and said, you can't be the crypto bank anymore. That's not like a law. There was no law that was passed.
Yeah.
That was just a new mandate that emerged and was covertly messaged to the bank.
Was it the regulators, though, or was it the person that you pointed out in the report? Bharat, or what is his name? Yeah. We
think that it traces to the Biden White House, probably to the National Economic Council. This guy, Bharat Ramamurti, he was a staffer for Elizabeth Warren. Her deal with Biden when she pulled out of the race was, I get to appoint a lot of your financial regulators. And so she kind of placed her people strategically in the White House, and then the financial policy became very Warren-like. So we think Chokepoint 2.0, as we call it, traces ultimately to this guy, but it could be others as well. We think that the SF Fed was not acting on their own. We think that they had instructions and there was collaboration from the other regulatory agencies.
So why do you feel like, you put out these reports independently and sort of done your own digging and spent a lot of time on this? I don't think people realize how much time it takes to do all this work that you're doing. Why do you feel like proper journalists, not to call you not a proper journalist, but like are not going after this story and haven't covered it into, the extent that it should be? Because I feel like you put it out and then it gets picked up or it ends up in like Trump's speech, which was amazing that happened.
Chokepoint, yeah, I referenced Chokepoint.
But why do you think?
I think it's a good question. I used to be a journalist, actually.
Where were you a journalist at?
It was a trade publication about corporate law, of all things. It's a really thrilling beat.
Sexy stuff.
That was my pre-crypto career.
Yeah.
So I actually have a bit of training in that. And when I was in college, I didn't go to class. I ran a political magazine, like a print political magazine.
What was it called?
The Regulus. And all I wanted to do was be a journalist when I was younger. Can you believe that?
I think, why did you want to be a journalist?
Because I wanted to speak truth to power.
I feel like a lot of young people want to do that, because I also wanted to do that. And then you realize...
you kind of are a journalist.
Yes, but...
So you met your dream.
Semi, but I get to talk about the things that I want to talk about compared to like an editor telling me what to go talk about.
Yeah, like most actual journalism is like, go report on this burglary that happened.
And you're like, great, I'll go down the street and talk about it. Also, I was doing broadcast journalism, and it was like, there's some just heavy stuff that you got to go out and cover. And I'm happy I didn't go down that road.
Yeah, no.
But this is not about me. This is...
I'm glad that I had second thoughts about my career, and now I get to indulge my fantasy of being a journalist.
No, what you like to do is you like to dunk on the journalists. You like to dunk on them and tell them they're not doing their job, and then come out with these big 8,000 word
It's true.
reports.
There's a satisfaction in, like, obviously I'm a full-time venture capitalist, but there's a satisfaction in, like, doing their job for them.
You love
better,
that. Yeah, you love that.
Yeah, of course. But also, like, I'm surfacing facts that otherwise wouldn't make it into the discourse. So I think on the Silvergate banking story, the story, first of all, is very complicated. So, the financial press did report on Silvergate and Signature, et cetera, but the way it was described was very different. It was they had a lot of risk with their depository base. They served the crypto space. When crypto collapsed in 22, a lot of those depositors went bankrupt or had to meet obligations and liabilities. They pulled their funds. That caused a run. At the same time, the banks had, overly excessive exposure to duration in their portfolios, and so they had to sell these assets at a loss, and rates went up, so the bonds value went down. So there is a story there that's like a pretty convenient story.
Yeah.
And then the other reason I think this wasn't covered is because you had to do a lot of digging and get access to sources that were terrified to talk, because they would face serious recriminations if their identities were revealed.
Well, you list several unnamed sources in this new report. Can you tell us about the credibility?
I can't tell you who they are.
Of your confidential sources.
So,
without revealing their identities.
The whole story is that the key information, the key thing is this: there was a cap imposed secretly by the regulators on the crypto business.
Yes.
That's kind of what we refer to as Chokepoint 2.0.
Yeah.
We're like the broader movement. I broke that in 23. Initially, I thought it was the FDIC that imposed it. Now I think it's the SF Fed. The sources are people with direct firsthand knowledge, people that were in the room. So
why do they feel comfortable speaking to you and going on a limb here?
That's a good question. Maybe I just look trustworthy or something.
No, Nick, give an honest answer here. This is the most serious, unserious interview.
I don't know. Because they know that I care about this stuff, and I put the truth first, I think.
And that you're not, but obviously that you're not going to dox them. There's like a lot of trust in you.
They have to trust me significantly, because the problem is this scoop, whatever, it's considered confidential supervisory information, and that can't really be released. That's meant to protect the bank from... information that's passed through the bank and their regulators is meant to be confidential for the bank's sake, but in this case, it's protecting the regulators, which is very perverse, right?
Yeah.
That couldn't be shared. It could be shared if Congress had a hearing on this and said, we will waive your liability for sharing CSI. They haven't done that. That was my call to action at the end of the article. That's what I think they should do.
Do you think it'll happen? Have you gotten pushback since this has come out?
No, no one
Any threats?
seems to care. No one
seems to care.
No one cares.
So
it's like part of history now. Everyone's moved on.
That's the thing that kind of sucks though about news cycles and just people wanting to. There's just a new war, a new distraction, or something bigger happening, and there's just no attention on it. But like, there should be some. People should be held responsible. I mean, we go back to the Elizabeth Warren, even just like putting out tweets that like caused a bank run. Like,
I mean, her role in this is scandalous.
what?
Genuinely scandalous.
How involved do you think? How much blame is on Elizabeth Warren?
A significant amount. I mean, she's a member of the Senate Banking Committee, so in some sense, she oversees the entire banking system. Not directly, but she has a lot of authority.
Yeah.
She was writing letters to Silvergate accusing them of aiding and abetting criminals. To be clear,
So crazy.
Silvergate did bank with FTX, but like everyone else, there was a service provider to FTX. They were a victim.
Yeah. They banked with
FTX.
Gemini. There's so many other big crypto firms that banked with them.
Silvergate banked
Everybody.
in crypto. Everyone. FTX was one of many, hundreds. They weren't responsible for their crimes.
No.
But Warren said at the time, yeah, maybe you have criminal liability here. She wrote these 2 letters, really nasty letters. And then her same claims simultaneously were seized on by these short sellers that orchestrated this campaign. As it turns out, some of the short sellers had reached out to her office. One in particular had sent all these members of Congress a slide deck with all these claims about Silvergate that were just like completely fantastical claims. And a lot of it was crowdsourced from like anon accounts on Twitter. I saw this slide deck. It was total garbage. And like one of the people they cited in the slide deck was his account Bitfinex. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Big time
I remember it.
anonymous bear. Yeah. And so this stuff made its way to Congress. And then I don't know if Warren worked with the short sellers directly. We don't have proof of that. But I saw emails that the short sellers had sent to Warren's staff. One of these emails said, I'm paraphrasing, something like, I think Silvergate might be involved. You should look into it. And it was like a totally non-related DOJ indictment against like some ISIS money laundering thing that Silvergate had nothing to do with. So there was a weird, at least attempted, coordination between certain short sellers and Warren's office. Did she directly work with these people? I don't know. I think we should find out what the truth is, because a sitting senator basically encouraging a bank run, and especially Silvergate was the first one to go down. Then this escalated into a huge regional banking crisis that cost the government a lot of money. Like, there should be some accountability for that. I think that's insane. I don't think you should be allowed to. Like, this is actually where I think free speech should have limits, frankly.
Yeah.
Encouraging a bank
I mean, it
run,
does have limits, but...
Yeah. So, like, that thing this came up in the debate last night, shouting fire in a movie theater. That's actually not prohibited, I think. I think that's a common misnomer, but you shouldn't be able to encourage a bank run, in my opinion, because that's so devastating. So many people lost money due to that, and the government, taxpayers.
It's so insane. How do you think, if held liable, she's not going to get... That's not going to happen.
No, she's one of the most powerful senators in the nation. But the voters should hold her accountable. Deaton should bring it up in the debate against her. That'd be interesting.
Are you close with Deaton?
No, I don't know him, but I'm sure he's seen my tweets.
The whole thing is just like so crazy. There was 0 things that Silvergate did wrong. There was no, but people associate it now with FTX. They associate it with criminal activity. And, I guess they said they maybe could have caught it between Alameda and FTX, but they were busy processing transactions. Like, they were not looking out for this. So it's like the whole thing is so crazy because the storytelling of everything is really a lot of the times reality, and like what Warren puts out there becomes fact.
And it is the established narrative. And so to answer your first question, this is why I wrote the article, because enough time had passed that they had done the settlements with the regulators. Enough time had passed where we know there's not criminal indictments coming down the pipe. And we had these revelations from the bankruptcy filings that corroborated what I had written originally. Those were the key pieces of evidence that I thought, okay, it's time to write a retrospective with 18 months of history now. Now we know. Like, at the time, it was the fog of war. A lot was happening. I was mostly right at the time. But now we actually can confirm everything that I'd suspected. At the time, I didn't know. Maybe there would be criminal indictments against Silvergate. Maybe Elizabeth Warren was right. Maybe the DOJ would do something. Maybe they were in some way liable for FTX.
But now we know.
Now we know that they weren't. They were listed in the FTX case as a victim. So enough time has passed, the dust is cleared. We can go back, relitigate this, and revisit and see Silvergate as a true victim. When I wrote those first 2 articles, a lot of people that I talked to were like, Nick, don't defend Silvergate.
Yeah, it's a little...
They actually did some bad stuff.
Oh.
That's a lot of bankers told me that.
Oh.
They're like, Nick, actually, Silvergate, like, they actually really did screw up. Like, there might be some super nasty business there. We know that's not true now. At the time, even pro-crypto bankers told me, stay away from Silvergate. I wanted to clear their reputation.
It's honestly, it's a weird hill to die on for you. It was to go out on a limb for Silvergate and to, like, cape up for a bank. Just...
But they were honestly an amazing institution.
They were at
the time. They were totally essential to crypto in the U.S.
Totally, but it does seem, it's an interesting hill to die on, and I don't think many people maybe.
I mean, Aubrey, keep in mind the thing I used to do before this was defend Bitcoin's energy consumption.
You needed a new bit. You needed something else.
I love defending unpopular causes that appear indefensible, but I think there is a nugget of truth here, which is, they did screw up, in many ways from a business perspective, but they still didn't deserve what happened to them. And I thought nobody was telling that story. I decided to tell it.
Where does it go from here then, basically, at this point, right? Are you just pushing for some sort of hearing? Like, what do you want out of it? You want Warren voted out?
I don't think Massachusetts will, is part of the reason why I left Massachusetts. Like, couldn't stand living there.
But what's justice in this situation, right? Because if this is just, this is just the crypto sector, but like think about all the other obviously areas that the government touches that you're not, going through the filings on. Now, I don't want to turn it into a conspiracy podcast. What do you think like makes sense here?
I think we defend the concept of the banking sector being a apolitical utility, because the banks are effectively an arm of the state. So I don't believe that the state should be allowed to specifically target industries via the banking sector. And that is a concept that goes far beyond crypto. It's just crypto is a very politically tractable target after FTX.
Yeah.
But the actual Operation Chokepoint, that is not a term that I came up with. That was a real thing that happened under Obama. They used the banks to go after certain industries, payday lenders, the adult industry, firearms manufacturers, basically politically disfavored industries. That was unconstitutional.
Yeah.
That's a Fifth Amendment violation, in my opinion. That was never litigated because Trump came into office and he ended it. But that could have gone to the Supreme Court. It should have. So what I'm ultimately defending here is not crypto. It's actually far more important than crypto. It's the concept of banking as a neutral infrastructure, which is like the reason I like crypto, of course. It's apolitical. I think the bank sector should not be deputized for political purposes. It is currently. Crypto happens to be the target, but it could go in any direction. Imagine, say Trump wins. He's like, wow, there's this great apparatus in place where we can just use the FDIC and the OCC and the Fed to just target industries we don't like, and we don't have to pass a law to go after them. We can just tell the bankers, we can tell the financial regulators to tell the bankers, don't serve this industry. And that could be anything. It could be abortion clinics. It could be universities. It could be, and this isn't how you should reason about this stuff, but it could be targets on the left this time. So anyone, regardless of their politics, should care about this. We should not throw out the Constitution and allow the government to target certain industries, to disfavor them via banking infrastructure. Banking should be something like water or electricity that everybody just has access to. Otherwise, you can't operate.
This piece does feel a little political. I know it's not. It just happened to be the Biden administration and then going back to the Obama administration. But this is obviously like just a large government overreach that needed to be called out. And to be honest, government overreaches tend to happen on the left more often than they do on the right. But that's my personal opinion.
I mean, it is political. A lot of people wrote to me, they're like, Nick, keep the politics out of it. And it's like, well, this whole thing is political.
Yeah.
And as it happens, Trump's track record on this is actually pretty good. Like when he was in office, he ended Chokepoint 1.0. And Gruenberg, who was in charge of the FDIC, he left office. He came back under Biden, by the way. And Trump's controller, Brian Brooks, who we all know, passed this rule that people don't know about called the Fair Access Rule. And the rule said banks should not have political criteria in who they serve. They should be fair.
Yeah.
Of course, they can exercise due diligence on their clients and they can have onboarding and they have to comply with ordinary Bank Secrecy Act stuff. But the rule said you can't specifically single out an industry to exclude them from banking. That was a great rule. Guess what happened on day one of Biden, his new controller, Michael Hsu. Guess what happened to the rule? Totally eliminated day one. So there is a partisan angle to this. There oughtn't be one. This should be something that everybody cares about. There shouldn't be weaponization of the financial sector against specific industries. It just so happens that there is a partisan lean to it. But I would like to think that even if it was reversed and it was the Republicans doing this stuff and the left was against it, I would still feel passionately about it.
We would hope so.
Yeah.
So that makes me think of obviously the election coming up next month. Now it's October, November. We're going to have, a full election here. What do you think so far? Have you talked to Trump? Do you have anyone on his campaign around Operation Chokepoint 2.0?
I'll be in Washington next month, so hopefully I get the opportunity to do that.
So you haven't spoken with either side?
No, I'm like a information wholesaler. You know, like I disseminate the information, then other people are the retailers. You know, they reach the end clients. So, you know, the choke point stuff has made it to Congress to the highest levels. Obviously, Trump's referenced it. Senator Haggerty.
I saw Gensler totally denied ever hearing about it.
Yeah, Gensler was asked in the hearing about it. We think he perjured himself. We're going to FOIA Gensler and find out if he knew about it. It'd be very funny if that was like
that would be so hilarious.
That would be like my contribution. But no, in fact, the Trump people are mad at me right now because of the DeFi protocol they're launching.
Oh yeah,
that I've been critical on.
You've been I don't know why this is the time for them to launch that. Well, it's not even the time ever, but like specifically right now.
Now it's the worst possible time to launch a DeFi thing.
I don't know.
And yeah,
are you on the whitelist?
No, I'm not.
I'm not.
I'm if anything, I'm blacklisted. And they got very upset with me. I didn't know they even knew who I was. They got upset with me. No, really, and they told me
who was upset.
Individuals associated with the project that were on the kind of inner circle. But I don't know. Like, look, I'm not blindly partisan. Okay, if Trump is doing something stupid, I'm going to call him out for it too.
Okay. I don't. It's fine. Okay. Obviously, Trump has been the pro crypto candidate, you could say.
He's been here. He's been at this very bar in which we are recording.
Yeah. I knew about it before it was happening.
You knew about it. Wow.
And then I was so upset that I couldn't make it. Just the hysteria of everyone in the bar, and just like it's like the most bizarre setup.
I thought it was funny because it's like a dive bar, right? Yeah. And like people were like wearing their like Sunday best.
I know.
And then did Trump actually send a Bitcoin transaction?
They did it, right, Jerk? Yeah. They did it for him.
Did he press send?
He didn't. Did he hit the send
transaction? It
was Drew and Thomas doing it.
He initially held the cell phone. He
I feel like he was like this.
He was presiding over the transaction. He was aware of the transaction.
Yeah, he was aware that it happened. The pictures are really funny. I love Pomp in the back. That looks like a secret. Why is he like
people were wearing suits?
Yeah, everyone was in suits. And then he was just tossing out burgers. Like, I'm surprised it didn't get memed.
That was
way
a
more.
Spectacle. I honestly credit to the pubkey guys for putting that together. It was funny.
Really good. And they've invited other candidates too. They're not partisan either. It's just fewer left-leaning candidates want to come around pubkey for some reason. But
yeah, for some reason I can't see Kamala doing a Bitcoin transaction.
Well, she did say the word blockchain the other day.
Wow.
And some people said this is the pivot. This is the pivot. She said quantum computing, AI, and blockchain as she read it from a paper shaking. I'm just kidding. That's not how it happened. But she did say it basically in that order and said blockchain. So do you think crypto is a wedge issue? Like, do you think it's enough to get voters over to her? Are people trying to find an excuse to vote for Kamala because they don't want to vote for Trump that are left leaning? Like, where do you feel that divide is? And does the crypto vote really matter?
I think there's a lot of left-leaning folks in the crypto space, as with any industry, that feel a cognitive dissonance because the political overlay is so tremendously partisan. It's mostly folks on the right that are pro-crypto. It's not exclusively. Like, there are some great Democrats that understand crypto and support it. And I have this view that is very different from what a lot of the like policy people maintain. Is like, fundamentally, I think the progressive view camp is fundamentally hostile to crypto, and crypto is hostile to that ideology. I've always felt like that. So I've never been optimistic about the Harris pivot or the reset, because at the end of the day, based on what I see from the progressives, there is a desire to deputize finance to advance their social causes, whether it's climate. Like, look at the SEC has a big climate agenda. That's weird. Why is the SEC getting involved in climate stuff? Whether it's the politicization of credit to advance their views of social justice. So let's reallocate credit to address perceived inequalities in society, whether it's racial or economic, right? Or whether it is operations like Chokepoint, which are attempts to, favor and disfavor certain industries through the architecture of finance. These are things that are core to the progressive agenda. So I don't believe that they would ever get on board with a technology that is trying to depoliticize finance, trying to flatten out the topology of finance, reduce the government's role in finance. That's what crypto is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's an architecture that allows ordinary people to transact without asking permission.
Yeah.
Really, like, fundamentally, that's what it is. That, I think, is hostile to the progressive viewpoint. So I do not think, and Kamala, in my opinion, is a progressive. Like, she was very...
Kamala.
Sorry, how do I say it? Am I going to get canceled? Tell me.
Kamala.
Kamala?
Yeah.
Sorry, VP Harris. Okay. She was like the furthest left member of the Senate when she was in office, based on her voting record. I don't think she'll ever change her mind on this stuff. So I think her very limited claims about being like pro digital assets, crypto, whatever. I think
They won't say the C word.
Yeah, they won't even say the word crypto. Look, even the Biden administration said stuff like this, a couple of years back. Like, yeah, we want to advance American, dynamism in sectors like crypto and digital assets. Like, that obviously didn't pan out. So I think that's, complete nonsense that they would ever truly evolve on this.
It's so funny. I don't want this to be political, but it's hard not for it to be political again. I feel very moderate. I feel like that's like, it's kind of like a, I don't know, weak thing to say, but like, I wouldn't call myself super conservative, and I wouldn't call myself super liberal. And I don't want the industry to have a political agenda. It does actually bother me sometimes that it leans so conservatively, because I think it alienates a lot of people on the left who may be interested or wanting to come in, because now it feels like it just feels like, that it almost becomes like an identity or a behavioral, like crypto bros, conservatism, all of that. And I really don't like that.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't the case. Like, it doesn't feel good. My entire business is exposed to the election, right? Like, if it goes one way, then crypto is going to thrive domestically. If it goes the other, you'll see more businesses going offshore. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the case.
No.
It doesn't feel good to have a coin flip determine the fate of your business for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
It's a terrible state of affairs.
Well, it's also not great for us having to go to conferences in Singapore. We need to figure out our regulatory issues. I will not go to Asia twice a year.
I
won't do it.
I can't do it again.
So we need to figure our shit out. But okay, so back to the election. What do you foresee happening if Trump is not elected?
There's basically two scenarios, I think. One is Kamala?
Kamala, like a comma and then la.
Comma?
Because you'll get canceled if you get it wrong, apparently, online now.
I know. Well, that'd be like my 5th cancellation, so I think...
You're welcome it.
I'm used to it. Kamala, if she wins and they sweep both houses, the Senate and the House, then I think it's really game over for crypto.
Really?
In the U.S. Yeah, because they'll be able to push through all their appointments. They can get the next Gensler, the next Gruenberg in place, the next Saul Omarova. There have been some very toxic people nominated. Thankfully, they haven't all gone through. But in terms of crypto and the financial regulators, the financial regulatory apparatus, that would be game over. I think you can say goodbye to any sort of pro-crypto legislation, whether it's the FIT Act, the stablecoin bill, anything. And I think the trend of offshoring of crypto startups, crypto capital, crypto funds, stablecoins, DeFi protocols being launched offshore, that will continue. And the U.S. will lose its seat as the primary center of crypto capital over the next 4 years. And you'll see somewhere like Dubai, Singapore, maybe even Europe, for God's sakes, will become like the crypto capital.
And do you believe it'll be too late to catch up at that point, or do you think
it'll just massively hinder the growth of the industry because the best entrepreneurs and the most capital is here in the US. Like if you look at public markets, non-crypto, just public markets in general. So the US is about 25% of global GDP. It's over 50% of public equity capitalization is here in America.
Yeah.
So this is the global center of finance for sure. And there's no close second, but it will look very different within the crypto space if it's Democrat sweep. However, if the Republicans take the Senate and Kamala wins, then it's very different because the Senate confirms the appointments. So she wouldn't be able to push through the next Gensler, the next Gruenberg. So then it would be stasis. It'd be gridlock in Washington. I don't know if we would get any pro-crypto legislation.
Yeah.
But things would be much more, they would look much brighter for the crypto space if the Republicans take the Senate, and the electoral math actually looks very good for that. So those are kind of the two scenarios. It's not necessarily game over if she wins.
Okay. And if Trump wins, what do you foresee happening? Do you think everything flourishes and then like a kumbaya and
all bets are off? Like,
do you also
like World Liberty Fi will go to $1 million, and like Howard Lutnick is on Trump's. He's like one of his advisors.
Yeah.
He's like the biggest Tether fan in the world.
Yeah.
Tether will become the official legal tender in this country. I'm kidding about that, but I mean he's been so maximally pro crypto that he went too far. He's too into crypto, and he needs to dial it back a little bit, to be honest with you.
I don't understand why he's launching this. I genuinely don't understand why he's doing that and why his team are telling him no. Is this like Don Jr. and Eric that are pushing this forward? It feels so grifty.
Yeah.
I mean, I get he did like the NFT sneakers and he's been doing like all this stuff. I just don't, I'm kind of confused on what that adds and the addressable market of people that want those things. But I guess people have them. There's the Trump NFTs. You can go to Mar-a-Lago and you can like, I don't know, golf with him or something. Do you have one?
I don't.
Okay.
It might be a little dangerous to golf with Trump these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very good question. I think his sons, I think Eric's primarily behind it. Barron is involved. I think partly it's like to give Barron something to do.
Oh, and going to NYU is not enough.
No, he wants to be a little crypto entrepreneur, young Barron. And I think his first foray into that was the meme coin, which he was involved with, by the way.
He was, and did you see that clip? Did you see how much he sold? He like rugged it.
Was it, do you think Barron was involved?
I know. I have a source that told me that Barron rugged it. The thing to me is like the Trumps are already wealthy. Why do the weird grifty shit? Why launch a meme token? Why do all these little things? It doesn't really make sense. It's like, you guys, are you not good?
I think it might be the difference. You know, the way that rich people say they're actually poor is they're like, I'm not very liquid.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
You never admit to actually being poor. You just say, no, it's my liquidity. I have capital calls to make, and I have quarterly tax payments to make. I think they're not very liquid, so that could explain it. If they can raise if they can raise, $500 million, God only knows what they'll raise in the pre-sale. Maybe it'll work. Maybe the project will succeed. Who knows? I think that could be a short-term liquidity.
But it's basically just the crypto market, because I don't know if a lot of Trump supporters know how to set up a wallet or have wallets. This is adoption.
Yeah.
This is how we're getting people in.
Also, I think it's like I think Trump sees it as a quid pro quo to a certain extent. Like, okay, he went to pubkey. He bought a burger with Bitcoin. He went to Nashville and he gave a talk. And now he wants something in return, which is not just our loyalty, but also our money. That's like my very cynical interpretation.
Yeah, well, he was so anti-Bitcoin before. Then there was this turn of heart, and I don't know what was it. His kids? Was it Barron? I don't know what got to him that really turned it around. Was it Chokepoint? I don't know.
You know what I think was actually the reason he said that initially was actually that was around the time Facebook was doing Libra.
Oh yeah.
I think he was actually saying this about Facebook. Because he hated, I don't know if he still does, Zuckerberg. Hated him because he spent allegedly $400 million.
He put out that apology Did you see that?
yeah.
Which is crazy.
No, I mean, I think Zuckerberg has really evolved, and now he's a fighter as well. He's like cool. He like dresses cool now.
Yeah, well, that's like it's kind of like your glow up.
Yeah, who had the better glow up, me or Zuckerberg?
No, we need to put a picture back and forth. I don't understand, but it's crazy that he was able to do that. You know,
I'm impressed by it. What they're doing with open source AI models now is really cool. But yeah, I think that's why Trump said he didn't like crypto, actually. And then what I think actually happened was the reality on the ground changed. Like, crypto became more mature.
Yeah.
Like, it actually, because it's been years since he put out that tweet saying he doesn't like Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
It became more obviously synergistic with U.S. interests. The rise of stablecoins is a very clear, just a very clear touch point showing crypto is good for the dollar.
Yeah.
Like, this was my talk I gave at Token. If you look at all the transactions that happen on blockchains, 50% of the value settled on blockchains today is in stablecoins. If you dig into the stablecoin sector, 99% reference the dollar. So basically, blockchains are all about the dollar. So Bitcoin people, and I think this was a mistake, used to say Bitcoin is going to destroy the dollar.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is hostile to the dollar. Some still say that. But it's clear now that crypto, as it has emerged and matured and grown, is good for the dollar. It spreads the dollar into these places that don't have dollars. It's good for the individuals in the emerging market countries that would love dollars.
Yeah.
They didn't have access to it before. It's good. It's a source of buying pressure for the U.S. debt, and like Lord knows we need people to buy the debt. So I think just the reality on the ground changed. That could have been it too.
But do you think that Trump really has a good concept of stablecoins and Bitcoin and central bank digital currencies and all these things? I feel like I watched his speech, which very entertaining in Nashville, but it lacked substance. I was actually really impressed with Bobby Kennedy's speech. I feel like he's obviously 20 years his junior, but like there's just a lot more lights on it. To be honest, Trump is getting old. Like he's elderly now. He's the older candidate in this race. And I think he has great people around him. He has good people advising him, but I don't know if he actually understands all of these things so clearly.
It doesn't matter if he does or if he doesn't.
I think it sort of matters if the president understands. Yeah.
No, I look.
Yeah,
do we need him to understand transformer models to like regulate AI appropriately? No. He doesn't need to understand how SHA-256
But I still don't know
works.
I still don't know if he like even on like a general level understands, or if he's just give me your money, right? I'm playing devil's advocate here because I don't want people to be like, oh, this is such a conservative podcast. I'm just calling out, yeah, he's said all the right things and now he wants everyone's money. Well,
he wants money and votes, and look, Fair Shake is the biggest single issue super
It is
PAC.
the biggest, yeah.
It's going to swing a lot of these races, maybe Ohio. But I think if you look at the people around him, they definitely understand crypto. Vivek, I have had the chance to talk with him a few times. He's very smart on crypto, even though he's a biotech background. JD Vance, owns a bunch of Bitcoin. He's a venture capitalist. He worked for Peter Thiel, or who's in the Peter Thiel orbit. So he clearly understands this stuff. So, I mean, Whip Emmer, who is now friends with Trump again after they had a falling out, he's like the most vocal pro-crypto guy in the House. So I think the people in his circle do understand it. So I think, and if you look at the official Republican Party platform, there's very clear, specific pro-crypto elements in the platform. So whether or not Trump gets it, it's clearly good for the crypto space.
Yeah, but I feel like Trump kind of runs his administration sort of like a little bit of a dictator, fires people quite often, and I think if people don't listen to him, he kind of, gets pissed. He's kind of an egomaniac, to be honest, which I feel like this is fair. This is balanced.
You're just trying to beat the Aubrey's a conservative allegations. I see what you're doing. It's okay. I know the truth.
All right, Nick, I think we're almost at an hour.
Maybe I should ask you some questions.
No, that's okay.
Has anyone ever turned it around on you like that?
Well, when I go on other people's podcasts, but...
Yeah, but not on the observation. It's one-way traffic. But what if you came on my show? Then I could ask you.
You could.
Come on the brink. So are we going to do a trade? You have to come on the brink.
A trade podcast for podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're as big as the observation. Yeah.
We took a little summer break.
We've done 560 episodes.
That's insane.
I know. It's driving me crazy.
Do you have any closing thoughts? that
Just
you like to share? Call to action, if you will.
on anything.
And we need you to look in the camera.
Face the nation. People of
We
America.
want you.
People of America. No, I mean, I would say on the choke point stuff, I have finally noticed some tier 1 publications start to care about it. So I think I have done my bit, and now other more capable journalists, like real professionals, will take up the story because I think there is a story there. So, I think the problem was no one at Silvergate was able to speak. They were muzzled. I do hope some kind of hearing emerges in the House, but it might take until the turnover of the administration to really get to the truth of what happened there.
Do you think it will happen?
Eventually, but it might be like, when the Soviet Union collapsed, we found out about Stalin's purges in the 50s kind of thing. So we might have to wait 40 years.
And you'll be here waiting.
I don't want to wait that long. I want to know the truth now.
Well, I think we know. We know the truth.
We basically
you know the truth.
Yeah, I want everybody else to know.
The American people to know the truth. All right. Well, Nic, thank you so much for coming on. And thank you, pubkey, for having us and hosting us up here. We will be back next time. And that's all.
Thank you, Aubrey.
This is the camera. Why was I looking this way? This is my first time filming here.